Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. CLR, Bruce Rivers. I am Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer. That means I actually go to trial. And this episode, again, is brought to you by eForms.com. That's eForms.com. Now, I always like to work smarter, not harder, and that's what eForms.com can do for you. If you need a lease, you need a business agreement, you need any kind of form that's legal, go to eForms.com. Now, today we are reacting to the killing of Mr. Simon at the Blue Moon convenience store or bodega located in the Upper Manhattan on July 1st. Now, let's just kind of recap what happened. Simon's girlfriend tried to buy a snack for her daughter, okay? And her payment was declined. Apparently it was on some kind of food assistance. And according to a copy of the criminal complaint, Alba is alleged to have grabbed the snack, and that pissed off Simon's girlfriend. The girlfriend allegedly then returned to the counter, knocked some stuff off the counter, and left while yelling, "My fella is going to come down here right now and fuck you up." Now, that is what you call a threat. When you analyze this whole thing, you have to analyze it with that in mind. That's got to be the frame of reference from Alba's standpoint. So let's kind of watch what happens in this video when Mr. Simon comes back to the store. So we have someone you trying to, and this is all over a fucking snack. This is all over a snack, all over a bag of potato chips or something like that. So let's just take a look at this. There's no sound with this, but let's just take a look at just what the video shows. So Simon comes back to confront Alba about the mistreatment of his girlfriend. So he comes back, and we start the video. He's already in behind the counter, which he's not supposed to be behind the counter. All right, so right there. So the initial strike clearly comes from Simon. So Simon, and this has always been my theory of any assault or murder type case. Whoever closes the gap loses the argument, right? And so who closes the gap here? It isn't Mr. Alba going after Mr. Simon. It's Mr. Simon coming back. First of all, he's in an area where he's not supposed to be. It's employees only, I'm sure, behind the counter. I mean, there's glass up on how he got. There must not be any protection to prevent people from coming back there, which sucks for Mr. Alba. And so you can see him at this point in the video. He pushes him, and there's nowhere for Mr. Alba to go. He is completely trapped. And that's important for a reason I'll tell you in a second. And if you look, so even though he's pushed, he doesn't get up and try to fight right away. Now, Mr. Simon is standing over him, and this is how you analyze these in court afterwards. You do it frame by frame by frame. But that's not the reality of what happens, on the street, right? So there's a customer, it looks like she's trying to keep Mr. Simon from doing anything more to Mr. Alba. And he's super aggressive. He's in his face. But so what do we have? We have about 12 seconds or so that we've just analyzed. And so he's still sitting down after he just got pushed into the corner. Now now this is Mr. Simon at 1:33, pointing his finger at the customer saying, "Get the fuck out of here. It's none of your business." I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but that you can surmise he's saying something to that effect. And while he's doing that, Mr. Simon's not trying to get away. He's just sitting there submissively. So now he's This is at 140. Now he's picked Mr. Alba up. Simon has picked Mr. Alba up. He's got him by the head, and he's got him he's manhandling him. And so he's just trying to get away at this point. Now we're at 143. Now, there's a struggle. There's a real struggle here. And you can see at 143, Mr. Alba is, he's got something in his hand. We know now it was a knife or a box cutter. And he's about to cut Mr. Simon in the neck. Now, we're just going to go forward a couple seconds because you're going to see the blood in a second here. You can see he's got a knife in his hand. You can see the blood on the knife. This is at 143. So that's one stab. Okay, now you look at 144. 144. Now this is how fast this happens. A lot has just happened. He stabbed him in the neck. You can see the blood on his arm, and this doesn't deter Mr. Simon whatsoever. And he's still going after him, even though he's been wounded. So he's out of frame there for a good chunk of this. Now we're at 209. And he's out of frame for a good chunk of this. So when we know what happens, he stabs him at least, I think, 3 times. And at 213, you can see Mr. Alba has his own injuries. And it's unclear to me whether the injury was caused by the knife or something Mr. Simon had. So let's analyze this from the standpoint of self-defense, okay? First of all, you don't have to prove self-defense. You have to have some showing that it's a self-defense case, basically. And what that means is it's kind of like an offer of proof. You have to have some preponderance of the evidence, some showing of self-defense before you can get that self-defense instruction. Now, hey, once you get that self-defense instruction, you don't have to prove self-defense. It is presumed. In other words, the prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was not self-defense. Okay? So, in this video, Mr. Alba is attacked. There's no question about that. And he didn't do anything to provoke that attack. Let's say he did grab the snack out of the little girl's hand. That's not... Mr. Simon's actions are not justified to avenge, to seek revenge. You can't seek revenge. And it just is not... You can't do that. That's not self-defense. But here's the other thing. The whole incident, there's 2 separate incidents. You've got the incident where she tries to buy a snack and is declined, and then he grabs the snack back, and the lady says, my fellow's going to come back and fuck you up. And then she leaves, and then guess what? Her fella comes back, and he fucks him up because he's going to beat his ass. So when I get these I do get these kinds of cases from time to time. But mostly from the standpoint of somebody like Mr. Simon, where somebody causes a ruckus. And I'll give you an example. I had a client one time, it was COVID, and he went to he was going out to get food for his kids and his nephew or nieces or whatever. He and his girlfriend were watching 3 or 4 kids. One of them was his own, and so he's going to go out and get food, and he's a decent kid. He's got no record. He's got a permit to carry, and so he goes out and he goes to McDonald's, closed because of COVID. Goes to another drive-thru, closed because of COVID. So then where does he go? He goes to a little place like a bodega, and it's a little gas station / convenience store / kitchen, and so there's a bunch of people waiting in line, and so he goes in line, right? He goes in line, and he's going to get some food. Well, he's carrying 2 pistols on him, 2 semi-automatic pistols. And he's got a permit to carry, so it's all legal. And so he gets in line, and this other guy comes in and kind of butts in line in front of him, and the two of them start fighting a little bit, and it's all about who's in fucking line, ladies and gentlemen. Who's in line over something so stupid. And so the one guy's quite a bit bigger than my client. My client was the little guy. And he says, fuck you, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. And then he pushes him. And then my client opens up like this. He's got the gun in his waistband. And this doesn't deter the other guy. In fact, all it did was agitate the shit out of him. So he's like, and it's like, what are you fucking doing? I'm scratching my head. And so the other guy's like, now he's pissed off. Oh, you think that's going to fucking save you? Blah, blah, blah. You know, the whole escalation bullshit. And it just kills me because I'll tell you why in a second. So he goes out, takes off his jack, and his girlfriend's trying to hold him back. He bum rushes my client. And this is after a series of my client pointing the gun at him and all this other stupid shit. Bum rushes him, and as he's bum rushing him, my client shoots him twice. Kills him right there. Now, one could argue that that was a self-defense because he was going to take his gun. But it really wasn't. I mean, you can't be the aggressor because there was no real fight there until he showed him his gun. And then every time he turned and every time the guy who died, every time he went to go to the door, my client pointed the gun in his fucking back. And then he turned around and he put the gun back away. Turn around, it was all bullshit. And he goes, I don't care, I could do 40 years. And, he was talking shit the whole time, And, this is, when you're young, you do stupid shit. And in today's day and age, you carry a gun, you got to be responsible. And if you're not responsible, you can really create a bad situation for a lot of people. This was so dumb. Did he have a legitimate complaint against the store owner? Possibly, for the conduct that we're talking about here. Grabbing the snack out of his daughter's hand. Okay, I kind of get that. I get being pissed off about it. But guess what would happen if he would have just stayed at home? He'd be alive right now. So, Mr. Alba was charged with second-degree murder. They initially ordered $500,000 bail because they argued that he was a flight risk. Remember what we talked about bail. It's risk of flight or danger to the public. Then they reduced his bail to ultimately to $50,000, so you come up with 10% of that. And the outpouring of support from and I guess the bodega community in New York is pretty prevalent. And keep in mind, it's kind of a shitty job, really, when you think about it. You're sitting behind, he's just a store owner. He's sitting behind an enclosure and, just trying to make a living. And it's a very dangerous job because people like to rob places like this. And so he has the knife and he gets attacked and, then he sat in jail for a little while. So Mr. Simon had a towel, and he put the towel in his pocket, and he attempted to steer the defendant out of the area behind the counter, but the defendant, this is all in the complaint, but the defendant picked up a kitchen knife that was stashed behind the counter, and he stabbed Mr. Simon in the neck and the chest at least 5 times. The complaint says he wanted me to come and apologize to the girl. Alba told one of the investigators. I took the knife we used to open boxes and I stabbed him. So he admitted that he stabbed him, but he said he did it in self-defense. The complaint states that Simon's girlfriend attempted to pull Alba away from Simon, holding his right arm, but the clerk continued to stab Simon. Simon's girlfriend then took a knife from her purse and stabbed Alba. And you can see on his arm there that he had an injury. She is not currently facing any charges, although I think she should be. Simon later died that evening of stab wounds to his neck and to his torso, the complaint says. In their motion to dismiss the case, prosecutors said, because prosecutors dismissed the case against him, that unbeknownst to Alba, Simon had a box cutter clipped inside his shorts, but that there was no evidence that Alba knew he had it. Alba allegedly told the police that Simon told him, come with me, come fight with me, come. This is because she is my wife. Come fight me. Really? I mean, over what? Over fucking potato chips? We'll talk more in a second about that. But surveillance did catch Alba saying, I don't want any trouble, Papa, the court filing said, and that the video corroborated multiple statements that Alba made that the video, that Alba made to the police. The body-worn cameras captured an officer arriving to the scene and asking Alba, you stabbed him? And that Alba initially said no, later telling the police he wanted to fight me inside. That could be a language thing, too. Prosecutors explained why they could not carry the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Alba didn't act in self-defense. Here's the thing. When you have a case, like I said, it's the prosecutor's job. Once you get to trial, they have to prove you did not act in self-defense. Not that you did act in self-defense. You don't have to prove that you did act in self-defense. And when the prosecutors get a case like this and they think that they can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, they have to dismiss. They have an ethical obligation to not put forth cases that they don't think that they can prove. As to whether or not Alba reasonably believed that deadly physical force was necessary to terminate the commission of the burglary involved in the restraint, Alba would contend that based on the video evidence that until the moment Alba's employed his knife, Simon seemed quite capable of controlling where Alba would be taken, whether within or without outside the store. Did you see when I showed you before the picture of him actually manhandling him and picking him up? I mean, that's a felony. That's basically kidnapping or false imprisonment. The motion to dismiss states that prosecutors moved to reduce Alba's bail after the clerk was held in Rikers Island for several days, saying that the hearing that they have been in conversations with defense counsel about coming up with a bail package, and that's how they came up with the $50,000. Alba's been doing this for 35 years. He's from the Dominican Republic in search of a better life. He's worked in the U.S. to earn his citizenship 18 years ago and has been a constant source of support for his children and grandchildren. Those are all arguments that people make for the bail. But my heart goes out to the child in this. It really does, because this is... And my heart goes out to Mr. Simon, too, because Mr. Simon made a fucking bad mistake. He probably thought he was avenging his wife's honor, but all he did was shorten his own life. He probably didn't expect this guy to stab him. But you're in fucking New York City, so what else is going to happen, you know? And the problem that you have, whether it's this case or the case I just mentioned, you know, where my client shoots the guy over what? Over your fucking place in line? You know, I can understand certain things. I can understand certain crimes. I can understand certain financial crimes when you're in dire straits, which this may, you know, poverty does strange things to people, but what I can't understand is losing your life over a snack, over a slight, and the case that I mentioned to you, you know, I was really lucky in that case because I was able to negotiate it down to unintentional murder. Saved my client 10 years. In this case, I think the prosecutor made the right call. Mr. Alba didn't know what the hell they had in store for him. And especially when you've got the girlfriend stabbing him. And I really wanted to take a minute to talk to my guys out there. You know, you don't really see too many women doing this kind of stuff, although there was a woman who instigated this, really. But, guys, use your fucking head. Use your head. You know, nothing can be lost by walking the fuck away. Nothing can be lost by that. You walk away. Guess what? You live to fight another day. You know, do you walk away if you see somebody getting pummeled? Probably not. If you died over something like that, that would be noble. And not that you want to die nobly, because a death is a death is a death is a death, right? But to lose your life over potato chips, over a place in line, over a slight, just walk away. But my point is that there are days to really pick a fight. There's days to stand up for what's right. And there's days to walk away. This was a day to walk away. Permanent decisions can be made by temporary lack of judgment. Try to think, guys. Think before you act. This stuff, or this stuff, or this stuff, or whatever can make matters much worse. So my point is that think, make good decisions. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you live a long, healthy life. Build. You can't build if you're 6 feet under. And his daughter, where's his fucking daughter now? His daughter's in a state of grief because her daddy's not there anymore. And say what you want. Anybody on food stamps, anybody that's doing this, their children don't see that. They're just children. They love their parents just as much as anybody else. So that's a kid that doesn't have a fucking dad. If you're a dad, be a dad. Be there for your kids. There's no greater reward in life, in my opinion, than being a parent. It is such an honor, and to be pissed off like this and not set an example. He could have gone and talked to this guy and said, look, I'm really upset at the way you handled this, and had a discussion with him. Instead of what? You're going to pick him up, you're going to take him out to the street, and you're going to whoop his ass? For what? Not worth it. Anyway, so this is my rant and rave on the bodega situation in New York City. I wish Mr. Alba well, because I'm sure he's traumatized too by this. I wish Mr. Simon's wife and his child well. And let's all just say a silent little prayer for Mr. Simon, because he didn't deserve to die, but he made a bad choice. And I don't necessarily disagree with the prosecutor's decision to dismiss this case. It was clearly an attack, and very reasonable to think that Mr. Alba's life was in jeopardy. So this is Bruce Rivers. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. This is a little bit of a somber episode, but we're trying to teach a little something here too. A little something about self-defense, a little something about good decisions. You guys make good decisions. Make good decisions. I'm Bruce Rivers. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. Go ahead and visit eforums.com if you will, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, police is at my god.